Okay, once again, welcome to this series. And as I explained in the introduction, we are going to create a complete working ABAP application. So in this project, it's going to combine database design, object-oriented programming, the ALV, the number ranges, and user interaction. So this project, you can package it on your GitHub or on your CV, and it's a perfect practice system to showcase your ABAP skill. And the project is Employee Leave Management System. And what is this system all about? So the employee management system, the employees request leave, the managers approve or they reject it, and the human resource can view the leave report. So let me give you a quick rundown of what the application will be doing. So there will be these modules involve the employee who submit the leave request, and then the manager will view and approve the leave request, and then the employee can also view his personal request history. The manager or the HR department can view all pending requests. So who are those that have applied for leave request? So let's run through an example. The employee has already been created. So there's a program called Create Leave Request. So this program, Create Leave Request. So let's just play this. And then when we execute this code, so the employee ID, say employee ID 001, when is the start date for the leave? So we put a date, you can say 06/07/2025. The end date for the leave, we can put 15th of July 2026. So what's the type? We can use F4 help to see the types: the annual leave, sick leave, emergency leave. Yeah, so let's select emergency leave, confirm this, and then we click on this button right here to execute. So on the screen, you can see leave request created successfully. There's also a request ID. So for every request that's been created, a request ID will be created. So this data, this request will now be in pending request for the manager to view pending request. And so if I use the ALV to display all pending requests. So let me run the program. So that'll be zleave underscore. Yeah. So the program name is zleave pending list. Display this. So I execute this. So of course, I've also created other employees and other IDs that were generated by the number range of the SAP system. So this is the employee ID. The date of the leave, the starting date and the ending date, the type of the leave, right? The status. So these are all the status, the leave status. Of course, we still need to add the manager ID and the date of approval here. Yeah. So we can add the manager ID, or this should not even be here. So we'll have to edit this out, right? So the manager can view all pending requests. And let's see, the manager wants to approve the request that we just created. Remember, this was the last request ID that was created by employee ID 001, and it's pending. So let's go to the program where the manager will approve the request. And that is called zleave approve. Yeah, zleave approve. So we display this, execute this. So the manager ID that's going to approve this, let's say manager 001. So we have to, of course, there's going to be a value help here to give you suggestions of the required ID. So for now, I'm going to do a copy and paste to paste the last ID that was generated, which was 009. And then the decision, manager can either accept, which is A, or reject. So let's put R. Emergency leave should be accepted. Okay. So let's put A, accept, and then A to accept, then click on enter or execute. So you see here that the request was approved, right? Now, if we go to the employee, the request table, let me go to a new screen. SE11, the request table is, so this is the request table. And if we click on this and we execute, you'll see all the requests. So this was the last request that was created, this one. And you could see that the status here is approved by manager MG001. So of course, these other ones will fill it along the way as we build the project. And of course, the employee can also view his or her employee, his or her leave history. Okay. So in that table, that program, let's open the program where the employee can view the history of his or her leave request. So to open the program, \n SE38. Yeah, Z leave my requests, display this. Let's run this program. So employee ID of E001. Of course, with value help, you don't need to be typing it. You just need to give you options of the employees in the system, which we are going to do later on in the project. So execute this. So you see, these are all the requests that the employee has placed at different time, the start time, the end time, the type of the leave, and the status. So 2 has been approved, 2 are still pending for approval. And of course, we can also use ALV to make this display more dynamic, and we can also use Web Dynpro to improve the graphical user interface. And yeah, so this is the project we are going to build so far. And in this first video, we're going to create the first table. And as we progress, we'll see how far we can go to complete as much as possible. So if you are interested in this project so far, don't forget to subscribe, leave a comment, like, and also share to someone who wants to go into ABAP programming. Thank you to my viewers and to my new subscribers. So the first part or the first step is a database table creation. So we'll begin by using the S11 transaction code, that is the ABAP dictionary, and we are going to create 2 main database tables. So the first table is the employee table. So this stores all the employee details like the employee ID, the name, the department, and the manager ID. And then we create the second table. So the second table is the leave request table. So this table is going to store all the leave requests, including the start date, when the leave will begin, the end date, the type of the leave. Okay, is it an annual leave? Is it a sick leave? Is it an emergency leave? And then we'll also look at also the status, approved and pending. Then of course the approver ID. So of course, when creating this, we need to also create data elements and domains for fields like the status and the leave type. So because if we need to create fixed values, then we need to create data elements and domains. Okay, so of course, I've created a video on how to create database tables. You can check the link will pop up on the screen, and also be in the description if you want to know more how to create database tables to be very proficient in this. And let's go ahead and create these 2 tables before we proceed. So this is the SAP Easy Access. When you log in to the system, you get to this welcome page. Right. Okay, so let's go to ABAP dictionary SE11, and we want to create the employee table. So I'm going to call it the Z employee. I'm going to give it this name. So of course, since it's a client system, you start it with the alphabet Z, and then I give it a unique ID. So we click on the create button because we want to create this database. So let's give it a short description. So we can see employee table. So delivery class, yeah, since it's a master data, we select A, and then the data browser or table viewing editing option, we're going to select display maintenance allowed, so that we are able to display the table or the data from this table, and we are also able to edit the table. Okay, so then we can save this, Ctrl S, save to a package. I already have a package created in the system. So if you want to know more on how to create package, please leave a comment in the comment section, and I will make a video on how to create a package. Save this to this package, and then the transport request. So let's see, create new requests, and then we can say employee leave management system. So we can save this. So this is a transport request ends with 151. Confirm this, and we can save this. Save. Okay, so we can go to the technical settings and then select the data class. Since it's a master data, we select this first level, then we confirm, hit on enter, exiting, we save this. Okay, so we are here now. We need to add the fields of the table. Okay, so you click on fields, go to the edit mode or the display mode. So we're going to enter the fields of the table in this first column, right? So let's give it client ID first, and then client ID, we can say this is a primary key. The data element will be month. So if you hit on enter, this is an SAP generated client ID, and then we want to have the employee ID. So we can say employee ID is also a primary key, and the data element, we have to create our own data element here. Okay, so let's also fill in this part. Let's say department ID or the department, and then the manager ID. So for all this, I recommend you create a data element. Of course, we could use inbuilt data type, but it's better we use the data element. We create our own data element. Okay, so let's create the data element for this. So let's give it this name and say the data element for the employee ID will be ZZ employee ID underscore 25. I give it a unique ID. And because this does not exist, I need to create it. So to create it, let's double click on this. So do you want to save before exiting? Yes. So the data element does not exist. So let us create the data element by clicking on yes. Right now, what will be the short description for this? We can say employee ID, and then we need to have a domain for this. We can use inbuilt domain, the character, or we could create our own domain. So employee ID, we could just use inbuilt domain for this one, because the employee ID, we are not giving it any fixed values. So, but let's create our own domain anyway. Let's create our own domain. Let's see. So it's going to be a domain of character length 10. So let me give it this unique ID of 25. So of course this domain does not exist yet. So if I double click on this, we need to save. I'm trying to save the data element first. Save it to this transfer request 151 employee leave management system. We want to create the domain. So let's see, employee ID domain, and yeah, so we're gonna give it a data type. So let's select the character data type. So when you select the character data type, then confirm this. So what's going to be the length? Have the length of 10, number of characters to be 10, and if you click on enter, it will also give you an output length of 10, right? So we don't have any fixed value, so just save this, Ctrl S, or you can click on this. I save it to this package, my package, and then I also save it to the transport request. And always remember to, okay, let's first check if there are no, you need to check that there are no inconsistencies. So you can see below here that no inconsistency found, and then we can activate. So this is a domain that I'm trying to create. So I only activate the domain, click on confirm, and you see below here, object is activated, right? Okay, so let's head back. So you can see that the domain exists and we have successfully, let's also activate this, let's also activate the data element, and okay, so first we Ctrl F2, or you click on this button to check consistencies. So you can see below, no inconsistency found, then activate. This is the data element for the employee ID we created. So we save this. Yeah, so object is activated already, and then we can go back to our employee master table. So you see here that the short description is employee ID, the length is 10, the data type is character string. So we do the same thing for department. So for department, we could also do the same thing. Create data element, create domain. So for department, create data element, and then let's give it a name. So I'm not going to go through the same steps to do the same thing. So for the best learning effect, do this on your own. And if you get stuck, you can leave a comment in the comment section and say, hey, I got stuck here. How do I proceed? So I'm going to give you the data element name. And of course, you see the specification. So for department, it's going to be the data type will be character, and then length of 30. Description, you can say employee department or whatever. For the manager ID, it also be data type of character and then length of 10. Okay, so do this, create a domain for it, create a data element for it. So the name of the data element that you are going to create, let's say ZZ department underscore 25. Then for the manager ID, we can say ZZ manager ID underscore 25. Okay, if you hit on enter, see that it is 000 because this does not exist yet. So you need to create them. Look at below here. It said the ZZ man ID underscore 25 is not active, so we have not created it. So that's what you're going to do. That's your assignments for best learning effect. And then after you have done that, come back and continue the video, or you can watch the video to the end to have a full glimpse of the whole project. Then you can start building it by yourself. Okay, so this is the first table, the employee let's say master table. So we have these fields: the client, the employee ID, the name, the department, the manager ID. And I believe you have also created this data element. Of course, I've added this name to it. I'll contain the employee name. Let's edit this to be employee name underscore 25. So do likewise with a length of 50. And so let's activate this table. Of course, you do consistency check. F2. Before that, you need to save the object. Oh, okay. We need to maintain the size category. We got an error that maintain size category for table employee 25. So let's go back. The size category is found in the technical settings. It's found in the technical settings. Click on technical settings. This is the size category over here. So you can click on F4. And then the size category is the number of records. So between 0 to 3600 will do just fine for this project. And we select this, select 0, confirm this, click on enter. Then we can save this. Yeah, so this is saved. If we go back to the table and we hit on Ctrl S, we save it. Ctrl F2 or this button right here to check. So now there are no inconsistency found. Then we can activate the table. So this is a table that we just created, employee table. So when we click on the activate, confirm this, and it says the object has been activated. Okay. Oh yeah, so there's something I skipped to do for the data element, and I also did it in my video on how to create database table, and that is field labels for the data element. So if you double click on this, you see that the field label here, they are all empty. So let's edit this, go to display mode, and so you could give a short description and say employee ID, and then medium you can say employee ID, and then long still employee ID, and heading also employee ID. So when you hit on enter, we can save this, save, check for consistencies, no inconsistency found, activate. So we activate the data element once more. Then we can do likewise for the other data elements, display mode. So this is employee name. See, for the short employee name, the long employee name, employee name. So hit on enter, then Control F2. Before that, we need to save actually. Then Control F2 and then Control F3 to activate all this button here. So confirm this here. Okay, so this is active. You can see here the status of the object that this is in active mode. So when you need to use this table or you need to use this data element, you have access to it. So if you do not activate, you will not have access to it. Okay, so likewise do the same for the other two data elements that was created. Yeah, so with that done, our employee table is now created. Of course, we can test this by going to SE16N. We can add to the table to create the data for the employees. We could create a table maintenance generator. I've made a video on how to create a maintenance generator, and table maintenance generator will help you to maintain your data, your table, edit, delete simultaneously multiple records at the same time. So it's more convenient than the S16N. So a link will be in the description, and also it will pop up on how to create the table maintenance generator. Please have a look at the video. And another way to add records to the table that we just created is to use the SE11 or the SE16, the table display. Oh, let's go to SE16 \n SE16. Yeah, so this is a table name. We click on create entries, employee ID. So let's say E001, name of employer, let's say Victor Ibichola, department, let's say receive, manager ID MG001, click on enter. Says here database record was successfully created. So let's go back. Let's see to view the table contents. F7, click on the execute here. So we have this created. So ZZ employee 20_25, we have one record created, but you can see that we've added the first data using SE16, and of course you can also use here, you can click on create to add more. So employee ID, we can say E002, we can say Lincoln Burrows, and then department transport. Okay, department should be longer. We need to extend this. And the manager ID, we can say manager 002, click on enter and then save. So you see below here, database record was successfully created. So use this to add as many employee as much as possible. So if you go back, you can see that the two records that we created, right? So we have two employees with employee ID, their names, the department, and the manager ID. So add as many records as possible to your table. And when next we come back, we'll do the other table, which is the leave request table. The project breakdown, what we have done so far. We have created some tables, some database tables, and we have created the employee table from the previous video. Link is in the description. And this is the details of the employee table. It contains the name, the department, the manager ID, the employee ID. And so to continue in this section, we are going to create the leave request table. Okay. The leave request table contains the required ID, the employee ID, the start date, the end date, the type of the leave, the status, the request date, and of course the approval ID. So like you know, I've created a package to contain all the objects that I'll be creating for this project. And so the name of this package is the Z-Leave Management _24. And so if you open this, we're going to see all the database tables that we have created. This is the one we have created. And then we can also see the data elements that we've created, right? Now, to continue, we want to create the requests table. Okay? Of course, we want a video on how to create a package. Leave a comment in the comment section. So, of course, I'm going to leave this on a new, I'm going to create a new window. So I will leave this on this current window. So to open a new window, you can just use Control N. It will open a new GUI window. So I want to go to the XE11, where this is the place where we create the database. So I also made a video on how to create database. The description, the link to that will be in the description. And so we want to create the leave requests table. So if you are creating objects in the customer namespace, it must start with the letter Z or Y. So I use Z, leave underscore request, and then I just give it a unique ID, let's say 25. Then you click on create. So then we click on create. Okay. So what will be the short description? The short description is going to be, we can say employee leave request table. So since this is a table, delivery class is going to be master and transaction data. So we select A, and then we need to also select this display maintenance allowed. So if you select display maintenance allowed, that means that the table can be edited and maintained. All right, so we can click on technical settings. Of course, you need to save, Control S, and then I'll save it to my package. The package that I created for this project is the leave management package. Then I'm going to save this. Yeah, so I save it to this transport request. And then I need to select a data class for this. It is master data. So select this one. And then, of course, the size category, I will not be able to do this yet. Yeah, so I will not be able to select the size category yet. So I need to save this. Control S. So if you look below, it said it's saved. And then let's go back to the fields. Let's fill in the fields of the table. So if we go to the slide, we can see this. All right, so we now go to the fields, and then we need to enter the SAP client number for this table. So this is going to be a primary key, and then the data element will be the month. So if we select the month and then we hit on enter, you see that the data type is a client, description is client, and then we fill up the other fields. So the required ID, we're going to give it a data element. So let's see required ID. We do not have any data element. If we go to the second, so we do not have any data element that is called required ID. So we need to create one. So let's just put the name as a placeholder, and then we call it required ID underscore 25. And so I need to create this data element. So it says that data element does not exist. Do you want to create this? Then we can say, yes, we want to create a data element. So what to be the short description for that? We can say that this is the required ID for the client, required ID. And then we need a domain for this. So of course we can use inbuilt domain of character length, because if we check our PowerPoint, the required ID is, the data type is numeric character, and the length is 10. So we could create our own data element. So we could create our own domain or use an already existing domain. Okay, let's check for the domains. So in the domains, we have domains that we created already. So if you want to know more about how to create domain, please visit the video on how to create database. So this is the domain for the request ID. So let me just copy this as a domain, and then I can head over to this and place it here, click on enter. So request ID, data type is character string, then the length is 10, which is what we want, right? And then we can check for consistency, Control F2. Before that, you need to save. So save the object, yes. Save it to the package and the transport request. Okay, we need to maintain the fields. We need to maintain the fields of our data elements. So we can say this is required ID. Then click on enter. Okay. So let's check. Control save first, then Control F2. So below here, I say no inconsistency found. And then we can use Control F3 to activate. So confirm. And you see that object is activated below here. Okay. Now we need to go back. So this was done. This was done. Then we need to create the next. So you can follow this method to create the data element and the domains for the other fields. Here are the fields again: employee ID, start date, end date. Of course, this leave type you need to enter range. I'll show you how to do that. Yeah, so you see employee name has been added, created a data element called ZZM underscore name underscore 25, and then the length is 40. Okay, so use a similar approach that we use for the required ID to create these data elements that were added. Now we need to add the start date and the end date to the fields. Now we start underscore date. Of course, the data element here we can just use built-in called that. Enter and it brings it automatically. Then we're gonna have the end date. Also the same data element. That's hit on the enter key. Auto fields. Then the next field will be the type of the leaf. We can call it leaf type. The data element, we are going to create it. So we can say ZZ leaf underscore type underscore 25. So since this does not yet exist, we need to create it. Before that, you need to save. And do you want to create a data element? Yes. Now for the short description, we can say employee leave. Now we need a domain for this. So now we cannot reuse any domain from here, because if we check the description, you will see that the leave type has it has to be sick, annual, or types of leave. So we need to give value range to the domains that will be associated with the data element. So watch this, see how I'm going to do it. Okay, so the leave type, we give the name, the data element. So this does not yet exist. So double click on this. Do you want to create the data element? Yes. Then we give it a short description. We can say employee leave type, right? Now the domain that we want to create, let's say leave underscore type underscore 25. So because this does not yet exist, we just double click on this. We need to save before leaving the window. Save. Do you want to create a domain? Click on yes. Now we can say, so the data type is going to be, of course, character string. So if you hit on the F4, search help. We're going to bring all the options that we can select from. So we can select the character string, and then we can hit on this and put it this side. So this is the confirm button. Click on the character string and then confirm this. So the length for the leaf type was going to be the length. Let's check from the PowerPoint. The leaf type has a length of 20. Here it is, length of 20. So number of characters here is going to be 20. So just hit enter. And then the output length also is automatically filled with 20. And so before we go, we need to also enter the value range. Why? Because if you check here, you see that the type of leave could be sick, could be annual, etc. Right? So let's add them. And so for the fixed value, we can say annual leave. So after selecting the character, you click on the value range, then you enter the fixed value for annual, sick, annual leave, sick leave, emergency, then the emergency leave, then the 1 day leave. Okay, so we can use Control save to my package, save to my transport request. So if you check this below here, you see that leave type is saved. You can do Control F2, consistency check. Say no inconsistency found. Then we can also activate this. You can use this button right up here, or you can use Control F3. So we are only interested in activating the domain, which is this one for now. So confirm this. And below here, say object is activated. Okay, we need to activate the data element also. That was why. So let's go back. So here you can see that the leaf type has character of length 20, description, employee leaf type, right? Now, if you go back to the PowerPoint, so now we need to add a status. We need to create a data element for it. So we can say ZZ status underscore 24. Because this does not yet exist, double click on this. Before then, you need to save. You want to create a data element, yes. And then what's the short description? We can see. And then the domain, we need to create a new domain. Why? Because the status is going to have to take some values. So the values are going to be either new status, or approved or rejected. So we can see ZZ status underscore 20 underscore 25. This does not exist. You can save to package, save to transport request. Of course, it's asking us for maintain field. We'll do that. However, this does not even exist yet, so I need to create that domain. It says this domain status does not exist. Do you want to create this domain? Of course, yes. So let's say employee leave status. Now, what is going to be the data type? Of course, character. And select F4. Select the character string, and then select the character string, confirm this, copy the length, status, let's say 20, hit on enter, and then we need to enter the value range because we need to impute specific status to the description. So the specific values will be pending for new leave applications, then there's going to be approved, then rejected will be rejected leave applications. Okay, now we can save this, save to package, save to transport request. We can go back. So let's save this, the data element, Ctrl F3 to activate. So it's activated. You can do Ctrl F2 to check again. No inconsistency found. Then we can go back. So then we have 2 more to go. We have the request date and the approval ID. Okay, so this is all we need to do for the second table. So just click on Control Save, Control S. Control S, it says the leave request already saved. Then we need to activate. Let's check for inconsistency, Control F2. Maintain size category. So you see here, forgot something. Maintain the size category for this table. So let's go back. That's why it's always good to check for inconsistencies. So let's go to technical settings. Here, the size category, I told you earlier that we will do this later. So click on F4. So this size category, these are possible entries. So the number of data records that the table will expect. Of course, this is a small project, so we're going to select the 0. So we expect between 0 to 2,200 data records. So confirm here. Let's activate or save. This is saved. The look below here is saved. And we can go back. Our table again, we Control Save. We save this. Already saved. Then we can do Control F2. Check for inconsistencies. It says below here, no inconsistency found. Activate. Control F3. Confirm this here. And it says object activated. So we have successfully created the requests table for the employee. And so this table will also involve us creating domains that have fixed descriptions. Okay, so this is how we're going to stop. And then in the next video, we are going to create this global class and then implement the method. See you in the next video. Of course, if you are new to this channel, don't forget to hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe. Thank you. Okay, so welcome to the continuation of the SAP ABAP leaf management system that we are building. So far, we have built some objects and we have created 2 tables already, which is the first one is the employee table, which is the employee master data, and then the second one is the request table, which is the leave request record. So in this video, we are going to be creating the global class, which is going to be the central class for business logic. And so the global class basically have these methods and requests: the approve request, the reject request, the get employee request, and then the get pending request. So all these methods will be created in this video and in this global class. Of course, other things that we are also going to do is that we are going to be creating reports, which will be the create. So employee can submit a new leave request using the report program. Then managers can also approve. So if this transaction code is run, then managers will have access to approve request. And then of course, view all submitted requests and view all pending lists using ALV. So these are also things we're going to be covering. We're going to be using the number range. So in summary, basically, these are the tools and techniques that will be used: the SA11, dictionary objects, tables, data, elements, and domain. I've made a comprehensive video on the ABAP dictionary. If you want to view it, you can click on the link will be in the description. And then, of course, the global class, which we'll be looking at, and the classical report programming, the ALV grid system, the number range to auto-generate numbers, and of course the search help. So this will be covered in this video and in upcoming videos. So if you are new to my channel and you want more of ABAP programming, tutorials, ERP systems, please don't forget to hit the subscribe button and have fun programming. So now let's head over to create the Leave Manager global class for SE24, and this takes us to the class builder. And what we are going to do is to enter the name of the class that we want to build. So we can call the name, or say ZZCL Leaf Manager. Let me just put some kind of identification underscore 25. So in this case, hit on create. This is a class, it's not an interface. So confirm this, and then we are going to add a short description to this. So we can call the short description leaf management logic. So make it public. So this final, we're going to leave it unchecked, and then click on save. I'm going to save it to my package, which is the leaf management underscore 24 package. We save this. Save to the transport request, and then we are in the class builder. So the next thing we need to do is that we need to define the methods that we're going to use in this class. So this is the method part, and so we are going to write all the methods. So the first method will be the create request, where the employee can use this method to create the leave request. And if you check the level, if you click on F4, select the static method. So we are not going to be creating instant method in this case. Then the visibility, click on F4 to check. Let's make it public, and we can add a short description to this. The description will be create a new leave request, right? Then we can add the other methods. The second method will be the approve request. Then the level will still be a static method. Visibility will still be public. Then you can create a short description for approve request. So that means approve a request. Then we can also create a method. We also need a method called reject request. Static method, make it public, and then confirm, give a short description, reject a request. Now let me just fill in the other methods: get employee requests and the get pending requests. So get employee requests will get all the requests of the employees, get all requests for an employee. This will be the description. There you have it. Get pending requests, static method, select static method, and then give a short description for this. Of course, we need to set the visibility to public, confirm, and let's check. We have all the methods that we need. Yeah, so we have all the methods that we need, and so we can proceed. Okay, now the next thing, we can save for now. So it said that the leave manager that's 24 is saved. So now we need to define the method signatures. That is, we need to define the parameters for each method. So if you click on the method that you want to define the signatures, then you select parameters. So in the parameters section, we're going to be adding the importing and exporting parameters. Okay, so the first one is going to be the importing parameter, and so let's give it a variable name. Let's say importing variable employee ID. So for the approval requests, the employee ID will be an imported parameter, and then the type, select importing, pass value optional. Typing method remains a type. Associated type will be the data type for the employee ID. Data type for the employee ID. So let's check the data elements rather. So let's check my package for the employee ID data element. So employee ID. So this is a data element for the employee ID. Okay, this is 25. So let's use this, and then click on enter. You could see that there is description here, and there you have it. So we're gonna fill in the other parameters for the approve request. So the start date, what is the start date for the leave? So we're gonna enter the parameter here. It's gonna be an importing parameter, start date. So the type is an import parameter. Then we are going to use the data type to be the DATS inbuilt data type. Hit on enter, and The next one, the end date, importing variable end date, it will be importing, select importing, and then also that, click on enter. The next one is the type of the leaf. So we create the variable. This is also an importing parameter. You can click on this or use the F4 to get the value help. And then the data type will be the data type for the leaf type. So let's check our using the F4 help, search for data elements, search for my package. That is why package is very important actually. You could see all the objects that you created. So okay, we are looking for the data element for the leaf type. So leaf type, we have this here. We have anyone with ID 25? No. So we can go with ID 24. It's still fine. Okay, so confirm this. Hit on enter, and there we have it. Now we need to add an exporting parameter. So the exporting parameter will be the required ID of the employee. So we can call this exporting variable. Okay, so enter the variable name, select export, and then we need to look for a data type for required ID to create the data element. So let's call this set required ID underscore 25. This does not exist. So if we want to create a data element, we go to the ABAP dictionary. We want to create a data type. So read that a name for it. Click on create. We need a data element, confirm this, and we can say required ID for employee domain. Yeah, for the domain, we need to create a domain. Let's call the domain z required required ID underscore. This domain does not exist, so we need to create the domain. So let's say required ID domain. Let's give it a length of 10. Click on it. Sorry, it should be character with a length of 10. Okay, so save this to the package and then check for inconsistencies, activate with Ctrl F3. So I'm only interested in activating the domain for now. Confirm this. So this is activated. You can see here that object is activated. So we go back to creating the data elements, required ID. So then we can Ctrl S, Ctrl F2 for inconsistency check, Ctrl F3. That was activated. Let's go back again, display. Okay, you can also click on this button right here to activate required ID, confirm here, and this is activated. So let's go back, or let's go to this second window. Now this is activated. Click on confirm. So you could see here the required ID for employee, right? Okay, so we have created the parameters for the approve request. Okay, so you can also activate it, Ctrl S to save, Ctrl F2 and Ctrl F3 to activate. So we need to activate the whole class and whatever we have done so far. Confirm this. Object activated. If we go back to the methods, yeah, so we will repeat the same procedures for create requests, get employee requests, pending requests. So fill in the parameters. You just need to click on this and then click on parameters and fill in the parameters. So, oh, there was a swap. Yeah, so yeah, these parameters I created were actually for the create requests, employee ID, start date, and the type of leave. And so I need to create parameters for the approve request. Click on this and click on parameters. So we're going to have the following parameters for this required ID. Of course, the type will still be, this will be importing, and then this will be the required ID, the data element. So let's see, search for this, check the package. So the required ID, this one, yeah, confirm this, hit the enter. And then we are going to have an approver ID, which is the ID of the manager that approves the requests, because this is the approval method or approve request method. And then this is importing. And then the data element will be manager ID. We can select this, or we can select the latest one, approver ID or manager ID. Yeah, so let's select the approver ID, manager who approves. Okay, so confirm. And yeah, so these are the two parameters that this method will carry. So Control S, Control F2, check for inconsistency, no syntax error found. Then Control F3 to activate. Want to activate so far what we have done, continue, and object activated. So go back. So let's do for get employee requests. Yeah, just put your cursor here and then click on parameters. Let's enter the parameters for the get employee requests. So just one is needed, which is the employee ID. Then the type will be public, importing rather. Then data type for the employee ID will be employee ID. So let's check our data element collection. Click on F4, search for data. Our package is here, confirm. So from our package, we are looking for employee ID, this one, or we could use the one for with unique ID 25. I created both of them. So confirm and then hit on enter. So we save this and Control F2 inconsistencies check or syntax check, then Control F3 to activate. So this activated. Let's go back. Yeah, we need to do for get pending requests. What are the parameters for get pending requests? There is no parameter for get pending request. It's a get request. So we are done with the, okay, we need one more reject request. So the reject request, select the parameters. We need to just take one parameter, which is the required ID. So if you want to reject a request, you need to use the required ID. So based on that required ID, reject the request. So the data type will be required ID. So this is the click on enter, and then we can also save this, Control S. So we go back to the methods. Okay, so for the get employee requests, we have the employee ID, okay, but then we need to create an export parameter. We're going to call this the export table request. Okay, export table requests, and let's add a unique ID underscore 25. So this is going to be an export parameter. So it actually get employee request is going to return a table. Okay, so the export parameter that will also be used in the get pending requests is going to be a table type based on the leaf request table structure. So that means we need to create a table type for this. So the data element used here is going to be table type. Let me open another window. So SE11 to create a table type. So what's going to be the name of the table type? Okay, let's start with Z, the naming convention. Click on create table type. Okay, so what's going to be the short description? Yeah, so the short text will be table type for leaf requests. Enter the database table of the employee leave requests. So this is the employee leave request. Select this and then we save this to the package. Of course, we can activate F3, activate the requests. Let me copy this, copy, and let's go back to this point. So the data element here will be this, and then we can give a name to the exporting parameter, and this we can call the export table underscore requests. So Control save, check for inconsistencies. We're using Control F2 or this button right here, and then activate, Control F3. Now we need to do similar thing for the get pending requests. We need to create an export parameter for this. So it doesn't have any import params, it has export params. And the export param, let's call it export table requests, because this is export. Let me check. Okay, yeah, the same table type that we created will be used here. Search for table types in my package. Yeah, this one, I just created this one. Confirm this, hit on enter, save changes, yes. Let's go back, let's get parameters. So we see the export parameter and then get pending requests. We also have an export parameter, and yeah, reject request. So all the parameters has been filled, and then just Control save, Control S, Control F2, and then Control F3 to activate. Now that is done. So the next step that we're going to do now is to create the logic for each of these methods. So it's just quite simple. To create the logic, you just need to double click on the method that we have, and it will take you to the code or the source code, or you can click here and click on source code this way, or you could just double click. So let's start with the create request. So let's double click on the create request. It takes us to this point. Are we in display mode or edit mode? So let's check. Yeah. So yeah, this is the change mode, okay, or the edit mode. So you have to ensure that you are always in the change mode to be able to make edits. Okay, so we are going to write a code in this point that will validate that the date which the employee entered is correct, and then we are also going to generate a unique request ID and then insert the leave requests into the table leave request table, and then return the new request ID. Okay, so this is what the code is going to be doing. So method create requests. Now the first thing is we're going to check if the date is valid. So you write an if statement. Yeah, okay, basically this is the method that we'll be using. First check if the dates are valid, and of course I did not show this earlier. To raise exceptions, you need to include these invalid dates and the save field as parameters in the exception. So when we go back to the method signature, when you click on parameters for the create request, exceptions rather. So you can add the exceptions here, invalidate, save field, and then the description, and just save and save so that you can use those params in your source code. There's going to be a unique request ID, and then we need to create the number range. So the next thing that we're going to do to make this code run perfectly is to create the number range in the SAP. So SAP uses number range to generate unique request IDs. So let's create the number range. So Control N, and you can use this transaction code SNRO. So the object name that I want to create, we can call it the leave requests. You need to start with Z or Y. Click on create. Okay, this already exists. Okay, so it's already created in the system. I already did that. So, but if you want to create, that would be the way to create it. I already created a range, number range. Click on this. Let's check the intervals. 0, 1 from this to this. So the number range is already created, right? Number range status, we have 10. So this was already created in the system, so I could not even create another number range when I tried. Okay, so let's go back to the source code. So let's do a check one more time and then activate. So let's activate the create requests, and this has been activated. Now, of course, we have created the create request. So we need to test this. We need to create a report to test this. And so we can use SE38 transaction code, Control N, SE38. So ABAP editor, we need to create a program. So let's call this test create request. Unique ID underscore 25. Let's click on create. So we can just see tests, create report. And so the type is going to be an executable program, and we can click on save. All right. So just a simple code. Okay, so this is a code for the create request test, and we just created a local variable of type required ID, and so we call the method from the leave manager create requests, and exporting parameter employee ID. So you can just give an example of an employee ID, and then the start date of the leave, the end date, the type of the leave should be annual leave or sick leave. So these are just hard-coded examples. Normally, this will be entered by the user. So let's leave request created. So let's save this. Then Control F2, no syntax error found. Control F3 to activate. And then we can run this using F8 or this button right here. So you see it's a leave request created with ID 0001. So I already have number ranges that I created already. That's why the count continues from 11. And so this is the ID for the latest one I created. And that's it. So we've created the class, we've created the methods, and we have started implementing the source code for each method. So in the next video, we'll look at how we can complete all the methods and tie everything together. So if you are new to this channel, don't forget to hit the subscribe button, and see you in the next video. So we want to continue with the class implementation with the remaining methods. So what is left to do, we need to complete the method for reject request. For the reject request means that it will update the status to rejected if the manager rejects the request. Get employee requests. So this will return all the requests for one employee. And then get pending requests. It will also return all the requests with the status new or with the status pending for approval overview. So we'll go straight now to complete the method for reject request, because in the previous video we created the method for create request. We completed the method for approve request. And so in this video, we are going to look at, or in this part of the section, we are going to look at the reject request method. Yeah, so to do that, we go to the global class using the transaction code SE24, and we enter the name of our class, ZZCL Leaf Manager 25. We want to edit one of the methods, so we can click on change. And we want to modify the rejects, or want to implement the reject request method. So double click on this. So it takes us to the method signature. So we can put this in display mode. So click on this. Of course, we need to save first. Click on this to be in display mode so that we can write the methods or write the code for the functionality of the method. And then, of course, before now, in the previous video, remember that we have imputed the parameters. So the only parameter that we have is the required ID. So this means that the method will find a leave request based on the employee require ID, and then it's going to update the status field to rejected. Yeah, so when we want to go back, double click on this, and we put the code here to perform the reject request. Yeah, so this is the code here. Created a variable called ls request, which has a type of the leaf request database table that we created, and then read the leaf request from that table based on the required ID. And of course, error checking. So you know, if you are checking for errors, use the sy sub rc. So if anything other than 0, then that means the read request was not successful. So if successful, then change the status to rejected. So if we read, yeah, then afterwards update it in the database. So now let's save this, Ctrl S, let's do Ctrl F2 to check for errors, no syntax errors found, Ctrl F3 to activate. So this is activated. Now we save and we have activated the class. We test this method using SE38 report. So let's quickly test if the rejected method is working. So let me go to a new GUI window, and we want to create a new report. SE38 transaction code takes us to the ABAP editor. So let's call the name of the test report a test to reject requests. So let's say on the 25. Okay. So hit on create. Then what should be the title? We can just say reject reject request test. So make this as executable program. Click on save, save to the package. So we write a simple code to test this. So usually this input that we are going to use in this simple code is going to be given by the user. So we're going to use the hard coded values. All right, so we are going, this is a code for the reject request, and we call on the reject request method from the global class leave manager 24. So if we double click on this, okay, save this before going. So it takes us to, this is the global class, and we are calling on the reject request method. Okay, so that's what's going on there. And then we export the required ID. Remember that this was the required ID with 11 was the one we created recently. And if we have the required ID, then it's going to say, oh, your leave request has been rejected. So let's save this. We save this and we check for syntax. No syntax error found. Then F3, Control F3 to activate, object activated, then execute. So it said leave request rejected. Now let's see if this worked. So let's go to SE11, open a new GUI, Control N, SE11. Let's check our leave request table display. So click on the contents and then click on execute. So now you see that the 11, the required ID has 11, the status has changed to rejected. Okay, of course you can also change the manager who rejected the status by inputting the values. So now we are done. That's that for the reject method. So we have two more methods that we need to complete, which is we need to complete get employee request and then get pending request. So far we have completed these three. So let's go ahead and do the next one. So now we proceed to the get employee request. And what is the goal? The goal is that it will get all the employee requests. So the input will be the employee ID, and then output will be all leave requests for that particular employee. Now, the output format is going to be an internal table, okay, of type ZT leave request. So since we want to output a table, so the output format is going to be an internal table. So you can create an internal table using SA11. So this I've already done. Okay, so now let's proceed. Or I might show you how to do this, but let's see. Okay, let's proceed. So we are in the global class leave manager underscore 25, get employee requests, get all requests from an employee. So double click on this. So we are in the method signature, and of course I've created all this before now. So we have also, remember that we have also created the, okay, save this. Remember that we have also created the parameters. It takes in employee ID as the importing parameter, and then export ET requests as the exporting parameters. And this is, yeah, so the associated type for the ET request is going to be an internal table. So let's check my package for table type. My package is this, number of hits to 10. Yeah, so ZT leave request, table type for leave requests. So let's go with 25. Confirm this, and we can save, control check, and then control activate. We want to activate this too, so confirm. Yeah, so the parameters have been checked again. So let's go back to the method signature to write our code here to get all the employee requests. So okay, now so this is just the code for the get employee request. It will just read the records, all records that are matching the employee ID. We select all from the request table into the internal table that we created, where the employee ID matches with the imported ID. So we save this. Let's check for syntax. Okay, so employee ID, let's double click on this and see. Okay, the error is this is supposed to be employee ID, but it's supposed to tell me that something this exists. So let's replace this, check again. Okay, yeah, Yeah, so the exporting parameter, which is the ET request, is going to be typed with internal table type. So let's check the package. Use F for help, search for table types, check my package, and so we can use any of these two that I already created. You can use transaction code SE11 to create the table type. So let's select this, confirm, and Control S, Control F2, no errors found, Control F3, and that is activated. So when we go back to the code, double click, and this is the code for it. So it selects all the leave requests for this particular employee. So Control S, Control F2, and then Control Activate. Now we are done with implementing the method logic for that. And of course, to test this, you can still create a simple report. You can create a simple report. So let's create a new test report using the ABAP editor. Let's say get employee requests underscore 25. So click on the create, and the title just say get employee requests tests. Make it an executable program. Save, and then save. Okay, then here you just put in the code that will test this. Put in some, create the data type. Yeah, so to get the employee request, just create two data type. So LT requests that has the type of internal table. Oh, sorry. Yeah, internal table type. And then the employee ID. This is one of the employee ID that we already created. And then call the get employee request method from the global class. And these are the exporting parameters, and these are the importing parameters that were already created. And then, of course, to display the result, use the write statement. Here also we can improve by using ALV grid to display the output. And yeah, Control S. So we save this, we check for Control F2, no errors found, Control F3, this is activated. Now we can execute. Yeah, so, and then we get this output. This is the employee request history for this particular employee that has ID E001. So we see that he has applied for leave, and these are the timestamp. These are the leave request times, and these are the status. So that is pending, approved, and rejected. Now you see that. Now you see how the method works. This is how we can test this. So if the employee has leave requests, they are listed here. If not, the request shows nothing. Okay. Now, so finally, so yeah, this is a sample of how it will look like to get the employee requests history. Now we will proceed to the final method, which is get pending requests. So the manager wants to see, oh, which of the requests have I not approved? Go to the global class, SC24 display. So if the manager wants to, or the HR wants to see the requests that are still pending, that has not been given a status of rejected or accepted or approved. So this is the method that will handle that. Now we've already created the parameters for this, and it has only an exporting parameter, which is the internal table type. So let me change this for consistency. So let's change this for consistency's sake. So I use this one. Yeah. Okay. So now let's create the method signature. Double click on this. Yeah, so now this is the method for getting all pending requests. So select all the leave requests with the status pending. Okay, so we select from the table into the table type ET request where the status is pending. And so if you save this, Control S, Control F2, and Control F3, this is activated. Another way we could also test the method without necessarily creating a test report. After activating it, you can just click on this in the test environment, F8, and then you get all the methods and attributes for this class. So this was the approved request. Now we are looking at, now we are testing the get pending request. So click here, execute, and then you see that the ET request has 6 entries. So if you click on this edit table, you get the output. So this is what? These are all the pending requests. You can see that the status here is pending and pending. Okay, so now you see that we've implemented all the methods. Of course, you could also test other methods in here. So you can approve request method. This one needs request ID and approval ID. So I can't remember that now. So let's see, create requests, execute. So let's say I want to create a request ID, employee ID, let's give it E005. Okay, now what is the start date for the leave? Today is, so let's say the start date should be 27/06/2025, and then end date, let's say 27/07/2025. What's the leave type? The leave type, let's call it let's say education leave, something like that. Okay, and then hit on enter, click on execute. So now when we executed, you see that this was created and it created the new required ID for this employee 05. Okay, now we are going to check. Remember, the employee number, the employee ID is 05 and the required ID is 12. So let's check the details for this guy. He has created a request. So as the manager, we want to approve that particular request that was created with required ID 00012. Okay, so let's go to the approve request method. So it's request for required ID. So the required ID for that employee was, okay, I hope I got the zeros right. And then let's say the manager that approved this would be manager 005. Okay, so execute this. Okay, request not found. Maybe the number was not complete. Let's do this again. Okay, now that was it. So now we want to get the manager has approved the request. So if we execute this for employee E005, so let's see the status of that request. So this was the request, education, and it has been approved. Interesting, right? Interesting. So this was the required ID 12, employee ID 05, the start date, the end date, the type of the leave, the status, the request date. Yeah, this is missing. Need to input this request date and then the manager that approved the request. So these are all the methods that was implemented for this global class. And yeah, so by doing this, we don't need to create reports, test reports for every scenario. Okay, now yeah, so now we have completed all the core methods, the create request. You've seen it, I've tested it in the method run environment, the approve request, the reject request, the get employee request, the get pending request, and this was quite fun so far. So of course, if you are new to this channel, don't forget to support my channel, support this new channel, and subscribe, like the videos. Of course, you can also share. So having got all this method and tested the method, the next thing we want to do is tie everything together, and then we'll allow the employee to be able to input the data themselves, the start date, the test process, we had coded them. So employees can enter their employee ID, their request date, their start and the end date, and also the managers can also approve and have access to a report that does it. So see you in the next video, and don't forget to subscribe. Okay, so welcome to this part, and we are continuing with building two reports. So the two reports that we are going to be building is the leave create report and the leave approve report. So a report is a program that will enable the employees to submit their leave requests, and then the leave approve report to allow managers to approve or reject a request. Okay, so let's head over to the SAP system. So from our global class that we created, these are the methods that we created: approve requests, create requests, get employee requests, get pending requests, reject requests. So we need the employee to be able to create requests. They'll have access to a program, they'll run the transaction code, and straight away they create the request. So of course, between the two, which one should we create first? We need to create the employee request program first, because before the manager can reject a request has to be created, right? So we need to test the backend logic end to end, And this report will allow us to test whether the number range is working, whether the create request method is working, and whether new entries appear as pending. So let's begin with the leaf create program. So to create this, so if you're on a different program and you want to go to another transaction \n, so we want to go to the ABAP editor, which is SE38. So we are here to create the program, and let's give the name of this program. We'll call it ZZ Create _25. So click on the create button, leave every other thing untouched, create, and we give it a title. So the title will be submit leaf request. The type of the program here will be executable program. Then save, we save to the package that we have been using, which is this, and then save to the transport request. Okay, so we are here. So we need to write the program for this. So for the program, we need to add what we call selection screen. Selection screen provides a parameter field for the user to enter their parameters. So let's create the selection screen, or let's initialize the parameters for the selection screen. So these are the parameters: the employee ID parameter, the start date parameter, the end date parameter, and the type of leaf parameter. So we created this data type. If you double click on this, okay, if you check the field label, yeah, so double click on this, takes us to the data element. If we see the domain for this data element and check the value range, you will see the fixed values for the type of leave: annual leave, sick leave, emergency leave. Okay, so then create a local variable required ID that is typed with the required ID. This is generated automatically. Okay, so we're going to add a path for the selection screen. And so to add that, you have to write start of selection, and then we're going to call on the method from the global class to create requests. So our global class is the leave manager. Then we call on the method create request, but let's check. I think it's create request 2. The name is create request 2. Double click on this. Before we go, we need to save. Yes. And yeah, this one, create request 2. We call on that method from the global class. And so we need to also fill in the exporting parameters from the method here and the importing parameters. So if you double click this, we need to save, of course. So for the create request, click on this, click on the parameters. So you could see here that we have importing parameter to be employee ID, start date, end date, the type, and then the exporting parameter is the required ID. So we need to also indicate this in the report. So let's go back. So these are the exporting parameters. So we now need to link the exporting parameter with the input parameters from the user. So employee ID entered by the user will be equal to the employee ID importing parameter that will be using the method create request. So the start date is linked or matched to the start date, or yeah, likewise the end date and the type of leave. Then we need to add the importing parameter and then end it with a period. Okay, so here we go. We save this, then we do a Ctrl F2. So it said no syntax errors found in the report. Then activate. Oh, we should not activate yet. We need to print the report. So we need to just create a write statement. Says leave request created successfully. This is, and then print out the required ID for this request. So if you write a code like this, there's what we call pretty printer. So click on this to adjust the alignments of the code, and then we can save again, and then activate. So it said object activated. Okay, so this is what the program does. The employee enters the ID manually. So let's test this. Let's run it. So we can use the F8 or this button here, and then you see we have the input screen for submit leave request, employee ID, start date, end date, type of leave. So this is not looking good. So I wanted to do this at the end to clean up, but let's do this now. What we can do here is that we can change this text to user-friendly texts. So let's go back. To do this, we use the text elements. this one here, and then click on selection texts. So this, we could actually use the data dictionary reference. So that is the data elements, what you gave as the short description, the medium description will be used. So for this we have, but for the date, since we use inbuilt data type for date, so it is not available from the data dictionary. So we need to provide here, so we can say leave end dates and leave start date. So let's save this, and also we need to activate. So here you can check the status of your object. So this is active. So if we go back and then we run this again, you could see employee ID, leave start dates, end date. Okay, maybe this was not provided in the data dictionary. So let's go back and just enter it manually. So text elements, selection text. So here we can see you have to uncomment this, leave type. Yeah, so there's a correction. I need to use this employee ID that I created, because let me save this. If you double click on this, you can see the field label will have employee ID, employee ID, employee ID. So let's go back, activate this code, do syntax check, Control F2, then Control F3. Now let's go to the text element once again and selection text. So let's say use it from the data dictionary, and we can activate here, activate. Yeah, okay. So let's run this again. Now you have employee ID, start of leave, leave end date, the type of leave. Now let's see employee ID. So in future we could, create a value help here to see all the employee IDs if that is necessary. Then here the leave start date, you could enter the start of the date of the leave and then the type of the leave. So here there's a value help already provided here. You could select it. Okay, so let's do an example. Employee ID, let's say E010. Okay, then what is the start of the leave? We can say, 1 month leave to 02 or 08. So what's the type of the leave? Then just use the value help to select from it. And let's say annual leave. Okay, then you can just click on confirm or enter. So click on this one to execute. Yeah, so here it says leave request created successfully and request ID 21. Remember, we have been using the number range. So each request you create automatically creates a new request ID using the number range. Okay, so this is how we create. So leave request has been created successfully. And of course, if you go to the SE11 ABAP dictionary and you check the database for the leave request, you'll see that the employee ID with 10 and annual leave was created. So let's check this. So let's check this database, the leave request database display, and when it's displayed, we can check the contents of the table. Just execute for now. So this was the last one we created. You could see the required ID here as 21 and the employee ID here as 10. So if I make it, so employee ID, this is the start date for the request, is the end date, it's the annual leave, and then the status is pending. Request date, we need to fill. The approval ID for the manager, we need to also fill. Okay. All right, let's proceed. So we'll proceed by creating the second report, which is the approve report. So we'll use the ABAP editor SE38 to create the new program. So the program that I want to create now is the, let's say, ZZ leave underscore approve underscore 25. Then click on create. So actually this leave approve will take in the manager input ID, and then the output to be a list of requests with the status pending. So the manager selects a request and chooses which one to approve or which one to reject. So the title of this, now we can call it the approve or reject leave request. And so it's an executable program. The type, we select executable program here, save right here. Okay, and then save to this package. I write 35, I want to write 25. It's okay. Okay, save, and then we need to write the program for this to happen. Okay, so always ensure that you are in edit mode. So we add the code to the report, and first we need to create the parameters, or the parameter, which will be the manager ID. Yeah, so this is the type for the manager. Of course, if you are lost so far on how to create the types, the data elements, and the data types and domain, we've covered it extensively in the ABAP dictionary series, and also alongside this project we've covered it, so have a look. And of course, if you still have questions, just leave a comment in the comment section. If you double click on this, of course you need to save before leaving, so you could see the manager ID, the field labels. Okay, so the next thing we need to do, so the manager ID typed as manager ID, then the required ID, so then the type or what the manager wants to do, A for approve and R for reject. Okay, so we've created the data types and data elements for this. Okay, now we need to also now add the start of selection screen. Put the period here, and then we can write a switch statement to alternate between the reject and approve case. So when the decision, which is like parameter for decision here, pdec, so when A, it should approve, or when it's R, it should reject. So for the approve, when it's A for the approve, we are going to go to the global class and then call on the method approve request. And when it is R, we go to the global class and call on the method reject. Our global class is the ZSCL leaf manager underscore 25. Then we call on the approve request. So if we double click on the global class once again, say before leaving, so the approve request is this. So we got the naming convention right, and then we add the exporting parameters and for the approve requests, and then write the print statement. Yeah, so for consistency's sake, I'm going to change this right here to 24 because the required ID here, we're exporting the required ID. The data type used in here is the required ID 24. So if we use 25 here, it's going to have compatibility issues. Okay, so when A selected, request is approved, and when it's R, request is rejected. Then when any other case, invalid decision, use A for approve or R for reject. Then when we save this, let's check for syntax, Ctrl F2, and yeah, no syntax error found, so let's activate, Ctrl F3. This is activated. Okay, let's test the program, execute this. So manager ID, required ID, decision. So let's use a more user-friendly text in the UI here. So we go to text elements, we go to selection text. So for the decision, it was not provided in the data dictionary, so you can just see decision. Then for the manager ID, you can get it from the ABAP dictionary data elements that we created. And so we can save this and then activate, Ctrl F3. See here, the status has changed to active. Go back and let's execute again, F8 rather. So you see manager ID, required ID, decision. So in subsequent, we need to provide value help so that you can see the required ID that is available, then select the required ID and then make your decision. So for test purpose, let's say the manager ID is manager 021. He wants to approve the request that was provided by the required ID 21, which we created in the last example. So 21, then the decision. Here also, let's use reject R to signify that he wants to reject the request. So what happens here is that we can also provide value help here, so search help, and click on execute. Okay, it says leave request not found, so let's go back. Probably the required ID. So the required ID was too much zeros, I guess. So let's reduce this and then reject. That's why search help is important. And let's execute one more time. Yeah, so it's a request rejected. So if we go to the ABAP dictionary to check our table and then \n SE11. So this is our request table. We click on display, then this execute. So this is the request ID 21, and then see the status has changed to rejected, and we can also expect the manager So this should be approver ID. So let's try to fix that. So we change the type here to approve ID. Control save again. Control F2. Sorry, not this one. This one is what we need to change. Control F2. Yeah, control, no syntax, control F3. So let's execute one more time. Manager approver ID. So let's change this instead of manager ID to approver ID to make more sense. Text elements, selection text. So let's call it approver ID because HR also can approve. Edit mode. Okay, so let's run this again. Oh, I wanted to change this to approver ID. Maybe I did not activate. Yeah, it's inactive. So okay, so let's run this again. I'm going to leave this debugging process so that you can also learn from this. So activate, then execute. So now it's approver ID. So let's say MG021 and required ID 21. Then so now let's use accept. So execute this. So it's a request approved. So in future we could say request approved for this ID and for this employee. This is what we can improve in future. And yeah, let's go to the ABAP dictionary now. C11. Let's check the table, the database leave request table. So display, check the contents of the table, then execute. So we expect 21. This is the required ID here. And then you can see now that the approval ID is manager 21. Okay, so request date. You can add this in the program, request date to use current dates. This will fix at the end. Okay, so this is how far I'll go for this part of the video, and in the next video we are going to look at how the employee can see his or her request history, the manager overview. Manager can see the pending requests, and of course adding search helps, and then we will be done with the part of this program, and we could also try to add web Dynpro. All right, so thank you for watching, and if you are new to my channel, don't forget to like this video and hit the subscribe.